Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
I'm Derek Master.
This is Scream Bloody Movies, a podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and guys, do you keep a goddamn horse in the basement? Because this week we are doing The Burbs, the classic Joe Dante 1989 masterpiece, which we will get into later. How are you guys doing this evening?
Doing good. Just had dinner. Just happy that I have a full belly right now.
That's a good thing. How about you, Derek?
I had to pick my son up from school because he had a fever.
Oh
Oh,
no.
that's not good. Way to bring the mood down, Derek. Way to bring the
I
mood
do
down.
what I can.
Dang it. It's going around.
It is. I'm getting over a cold myself, so if I cough, excuse me. I'll try to mute myself when I do. But, daycare, get you. It's the disease cesspool. So, but guys, we've got a lot to talk about, and we have a special guest that we'll get to eventually. But before we introduce any of that, I've got a handful of some really exciting horror news. Let's start with this bit. You guys are going to be so excited about this. So, Francis Lawrence, the director of Constantine, gives a promising sequel update.
Oh.
So, Constantine was just released on 4K. It just had a 4K release. And it looks great. The steelbook looks awesome. I'm probably going to pick it up. But when they asked about it, he said, I will say we are closer than ever to being able to do a sequel, which is a great thing. And Keanu and I are super, super excited about it. Akiva Goldsman will write the screenplay and produce the project. And then he talks about what to expect, which is we have a great idea. We've gone through a bunch of the comics over the years and looked at things. I will say that there's probably grains from things that we're pulling. But in truth, most of it is just coming from the three of us. You know, loving the character, loving the world, having it sort of in the back of our minds for 20 years, and just kind of percolating on ideas and stories and the characters we love. What do you guys think?
That sounds
I'm
good.
down.
Yeah. Like,
That's super exciting.
like we've talked about this possibility before that this would be happening, and it's like the first one. Did we cover the first one on here?
I
think
don't
we
know
did, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, we did. Yes.
Yeah, and that one is just really good.
It's great.
So
Yeah, it's great. I think we all gave it like 8s. It's a great. I can't wait I was so excited to see this. And then we have this news here. Remember when I told you guys that Paul Giamatti was wanting to do a horror movie? Remember that? And then I told you guys that Paul Giamatti was teaming with Radio Silence. Remember when we talked about that for a mystery project? We now know what that mystery project is. Paul Giamatti is going to play paranormal broadcaster and author Art Bell in an upcoming biopic.
whoa.
The pitch is a biopic about the late paranormal DJ Art Bell, who would broadcast his radio show from his home 65 miles west of Los Angeles, fielding unscreened telephone calls in a 5-hour show. Guests would offer up eyewitness stories on Bell's show about alien encounters and such. So that sounds pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I
You ever
love
listen
that.
to any of those old Art Bell transmissions?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, they're wild, but man, it's pretty cool. I'm excited.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love Paul Giamatti too.
Yeah. Watch him do
Oh,
anything.
man.
Yeah, exactly.
Got
His
a little
favorite
bit of
role, just before we go on, I gotta tell this. My favorite role of his is the first one I saw him in was in Private Parts, and I'll never forget the way he goes. You know what you are? You're the motherfucking Antichrist. Great stuff, Paul.
Yeah. Great stuff indeed. got a little bit of a bummer news. Anthony DeLeo Jr., who was known for Day of the Dead, he plays the lead's boyfriend in the movie. You guys know who we're talking about. Has passed away at the age of... Let's see, what is his age? It doesn't give me his age, but he passed away. He's got to be older, you know.
Yeah.
That was in 1985, so... But he plays Miguel Salazar. You know who we're talking about, Lydia, right?
Do you have a picture of him?
I do have a picture of him. You guys
Let's
remember
see him. I'm sure I will as soon as I remember it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, great. He's great in that movie. Like, I mean, we got to do that one. I can't wait to get to that one.
I know.
That might be my favorite Romero Dead movie.
Definitely.
Hopefully Derek likes it better than he liked the last one.
Yeah.
Derek's probably going to give it a 5 or some shit.
If it's a 5, I'll give it a 5.
All right, guys. I got the last 2 bits of horror news are really big stuff, exciting. Okay. First, Robert Eggers says his upcoming werewolf movie, Werewolf, is the darkest thing he's ever written. The darkest thing he's ever written. Fucking Robert Eggers. What are you talking about, dude? Have you not seen your other films? He says it's a medieval werewolf movie, and it's also the darkest thing I've ever written by far. So we know now we got a little bit of tidbit. So it's going to be a werewolf movie set in medieval times. That's going to be a fucking banger.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait.
What do you think, Derek?
I think that's great. You know, I'm just saying, I think there's a market out there for a movie set in the medieval times with a court jester who turns into a serial killer. It could be fun.
Don't talk about this story again. That the devil's
This is the first time
pitchfork.
I
Is that
brought
what
it
you're
up.
fucking talking about?
No,
You're talking
not
about the devil's pitchfork.
We could call it Joker. You know, 'cause
Oh yeah, that's a real original title, Derek. Get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? I'd rather you call it Devil's Pitchfork at this point. And then
call it JJ.
finally, TJ. And then finally, guys, Adam Green has a new shark attack movie coming out called The Ascent.
The Ascent?
Yes. So it is a survival thriller. Well, let's see. The picture follows a group of friends who arrive in Europe for a glamorous but daring destination wedding. The fun and games turn into a nightmare when they find themselves precariously suspended above a shark-infested waters in a battle to survive. Ooh.
Oh, man.
Whatever, you
I don't
had
know.
Jamie at Adam Green.
Yeah,
That's
you had
true.
me and Adam Green.
That's true.
It has it has some casting news. Ayanna Sarkis and Greg Sulkin have joined it. I'm assuming that we'll also get word that Kane Hodder's in there somewhere, and Joe Lynch is probably going to pop
Playing
up
a shark.
at some point as well. I'm super excited. It's been 8 years since Adams directed a movie. It's been 8 years since Victor Crowley, Derek.
Are you kidding?
2016.
No, like, no. That's not right.
Yep, 2016. That's where it was right around when we discovered the movie Crypt. Was when Victor Crowley
but
came out.
I can't believe it's that long.
Yep. So, yeah, So yeah, that's the big news about it is we got a new Adam Green movie, and I am so excited because, like I said, it's been 8 years, way too long since we've had an Adam Green movie. I think Joe's made several movies in that time span, hasn't he?
Yeah,
like 2 or 3.
He made Everly. He made.
Well, Everly was before that, but he made Mayhem. Yeah, he made Mayhem.
Yep, that's what I was
made,
thinking of.
Point Break, the Point Blank movie, and then Suitable Flesh. So 3 movies.
Yep.
And he directed a bunch of episodes of Creepshow. That wraps up this edition of Horror News. So, guys, before we start, like we normally do, this is a part of the podcast where it asks you, let's talk about tonight's movie and all that good stuff. And we will. But before we do that, we have a special guest tonight. So, my good friend and coworker, Dan, this is his favorite movie of all time. And when we started this podcast 5 years ago, I told him that he could be on the show sometime. And he's like, yeah, I would love to be on the show. You should totally do it when you do the Burbs. And I said, yeah, we'll get to it. And then 5 years later, here we are, finally getting the Burbs. So we're going to bring on Dan right now. Come on in, Dan.
A man that needs no introduction.
Except the one I just gave.
I just want to say that we're about to go over a movie that it's about this prim and proper area that's in just claustrophobic backdrop of suburbia and the psychological effects of a man that wants to be free, untangled, and explore. And a man of the suburbs is anything but.
That's
Suburbanites.
That's a reading of it. It's also about a bunch of crazy shit that happens.
Yeah.
But we're going to dive into this. So let's start how we always start, which is our experience with this movie. So we'll let you start, Dan. This obviously isn't your first time seeing this. When was the first time you watched The Burbs, and do you remember?
I don't remember the first time, but I know that it was when I was around 3rd, 4th grade. My dad had built this basement out, and we had a 40-inch TV,
Ooh.
which at that point we were doing pretty good. And we even had more than one speaker connected to the TV, so surround. And
That's what they used to call surround. Yep.
Yeah. So it was just me and him watching the basement, movies, and the one that sticks out the most is The Burbs. That was don't know the first time, but it was in that era.
And then it just became a rewatchable thing for you, right?
I think it's the most rewatchable movie of all time, my opinion. And as I've gotten older, the movie has meant something different. And I recognize some little figment of myself in the movie as I've gotten older. I see it differently. And it's a
I can see that.
Phenomenal flick.
Yeah, when I was watching it, I was like, man, Dan really reminds me of Art.
You guys eating in there?
Dude, I cannot believe they called him fat in this movie.
Oh, multiple
Right?
times.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's the fat guy. Like, what the hell are you talking
This
about?
is 1989. I mean,
I
Yeah.
know,
Different.
I get it, but it just
Um,
that one was like.
so, you guys, what about you? Do you remember your first times watching this?
First, no, but I can tell you what this thing was on TBS all
was.
the
It was-
time back in the
It was
day.
a TBS. It was a TBS motherfucker. That's for sure.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I can tell you that I haven't seen this movie probably. Jamie and I talked about this. 25 years at least, maybe a little longer. So it's been a while, which makes me feel old.
You still remembered everything, though, too, didn't you?
Sure did.
Yep.
Sure,
Yep.
sardines. Sure did.
Lydia, you said you've seen this a handful of times, yeah?
Yes. So the first time I watched this, I remember it very vividly. I was at my dad's house, and I was just in the living room. I don't know what I was doing, like working on something, or I don't know. Just, I think I was I was probably a freshman in high school. So I was very impressionable at that time. And we had a big TV too. Like, they had a big TV in their living room. So it was just on, and I don't know who put it on. I don't know. Somebody turned the TV on and walked away, but I was just in there and I just look up and I'm like, oh, what is this, Tom Hanks? And like, I could not look away from this movie for 1 second. I was totally hooked. I was like, this is the craziest thing that I've ever seen, and why has no one ever told me about this movie? And I've seen it, a handful of times since then.
So, yeah, I remember approximately like one of the first times, like the first time I actually sat and watched it is when I remember, because I remember being a kid and seeing bits and pieces of it, like on, I remember seeing the VHS cover, and then I remember my uncle had a VHS copy of it. So it would be on and I'd see some scenes here. But Derek, you mentioned TBS. The first time I ever watched this movie was on fucking TBS. It might have even been Dinner and a Movie, for all I know. But I was upstairs. I just got done playing PlayStation. Turned off the TV. Was like, okay. Or turned off the PlayStation. Like, I'm done playing PlayStation. Flipped onto the cable. And I'm flipping through and I saw Tom Hanks. And I was like, oh, Tom Hanks. Like you did. Oh, Tom Hanks. It's our favorite guy. And
yeah, you can't go wrong.
yeah, it's Tom Hanks. It's probably going to be good. The chances of it being bad are less than good. So I started watching it, and I was like, "What the hell is this movie?" It's like kind of It's like kind of spooky-ish. And then like just the absurdity started hitting, and I'm like, "This movie is fucking wild."
Yes.
And then I became obsessed with it. After I watched that, I tracked it down. Found it on VHS and then eventually DVD, and then just watched it. I'd pop it in if I was like in the mood for some kind of spookiness and just wanted just to feel good. I'd put this one in if Evil Dead 2 wasn't within my reach, because as we all know, Evil Dead 2 is the best movie ever made besides Halloween, and makes you feel good no matter what mood you're in. But yeah, so I've lived with this one along. I haven't seen it as much as you, Dan, but I've seen it a lot. And then, so here's something. Dan and I quote this movie every day at work. Like, literally every day. At some point, we'll say something along the lines of, who knows? I think that's the one we say the most. What's the other one we say all the time, Dan?
Oh, man. I mean, there's a quote for every situation in life from this movie. I mean, dude, it's hard to say. I mean, Ricky Butler, Rumsfeld. Ricky Butler says. We have shirts, both of us, say, well, Ricky Butler says.
We do.
This is what I need, Carol. This. Ooh, and it has that sound effect that like doesn't. It's so tongue-in-cheek funny that like it keeps the overall presence of like an actual. There's like really psychological, psychology. Probably a better word, going on in the background of a deeper meaning of what's going on, and then you have this like these undertones of just like, that tongue-in-cheek, just these little things that kind of bring you dark, doesn't become too deep. You can absorb it from lots of perspectives, and Joe Dante does just such a phenomenal job. I mean, that whole scene where he's like, "This is what I need, Carol." Joe Dante, Gremlins, and you've got Corey Feldman with Gremlins, and if you look there on the as he's
you have Dick Smith as well. Pops up with the garbage. Yep.
Yeah, that's right, for sure. Mm-hmm. I forgot about that. And as they're, Ray and Carol's having this argument, Carrie Fisher's character. Meanwhile, on the table, the son's like putting too much sugar in his cereal, and it's Gremlin cereal, which is a callback. Yeah. There's all these little Easter eggs that just kind of keep you like, as you watch it more and more, you appreciate the film. And Corey Feldman being in Gremlins, Joe Dante's connection, all these little things. It's enough to keep bring levity to it, because it's about people killing their neighbors.
Yeah. Right, I didn't even catch the Gremlins cereal.
I didn't catch the Gremlins cereal either.
So the opening scene of this movie is fun, where we just we see the craziness and Ray's out there and everything. It kind of sets a little bit of a tone. What?
You went too far, man. that whole miniature, like coming down, like I
Oh,
really enjoyed
yes.
that.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you a quick story. So, Jamie and I were talking one time about an idea that we had, right? And he wanted to set a house on fire, and I kept telling him, "Man, we need to use miniatures. But we're
That's
not going to burn
literally
a
the
house
opposite of what
down."
happened. That's literally the opposite of what happened. I said, "Oh, well, this house needs to burn down. We'll just build a miniature." And Derek's like, "Oh, that's not going to look real. I think we'll just burn a real house down, get an abandoned one." I said, "Derek, when houses burn down in movies, they're miniatures. Like, that's how they do it. They don't just go and burn fucking houses down. What are we talking about
Gary,
here?"
Indiana's not that far away.
It's true. We could probably find one. But no, that's great. But once we introduce, the best part is when we're introduced to all of the characters in that basically the next scene. You know, we get introduced to Carol and his son, and we get introduced to Rumsfeld and Walter and Art and Ricky, and just the way they each kind of have their own introduction scenes is so good.
And then
because it paces through the way it kind of ebbs and flows, so they each have their moments, you know, and we get character building in this absurdity because we see that the things that don't matter to most people, like the lawn, means everything to Rumsfeld, you know, like that burns me. You know what really burns
that
my
old fart's
ass?
got the best lawn on the block because he trains his dog to crap on my lawn.
It's so ridiculous.
I had a neighbor as a kid who was that guy. He had the American flag
right
up.
now.
He was a veteran, had the veteran hat, the whole 9 yards, and he had this little dog that looked just like Queenie that would shit in other people's lawns, and his was the greenest ever. And across the street was a mortician. I'm not joking. Who would always a mortician that brought bodies to his house in our neighborhood. I remember seeing this. And he would complain about the other guy who had the nicest lawn on the block. And it's just like, this is a real thing. Suburbia is a psychological
That's the real
issue.
thing. Yeah, it really is. And so the best part about this whole opening is when because we're introduced to the Klopek name in the house, obviously. So we're kind of put in this area. But my favorite, the bit, and it never fails to make me laugh, it's the best, is when we get the close-ups of everybody's, when we zoom in on everybody's eyes, when we see the close, you know, the Hans come out, and we do a zoom in on fucking Queenie. Queenie's eyes. It is just so good.
The dog, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about first of all, let's talk about Ricky, because it's Corey Feldman, and this is at the height of the Corey's powers. And he's so funny in this. He's so good, so natural. Like, he's the cool kid. And so he's kind of our like narrator to a degree. He's our way in to these characters. You know, our protagonist is Ray. We follow Ray, but Ricky is our way in. Like, because he sees the absurdity of it. And when we're
he makes a
introduced
spectacle of it.
Yeah, well, it's his entertainment. It's better
Yeah.
than TV in a movie. Is his neighborhood. But when we're introduced to Art, is one of my favorite scenes ever too, because not only is he just shooting at an owl with or this crow with a gun, and he's like, Art's got a gun. But the following scene, when he just goes in and he just starts eating all their food, is so funny.
Well, no, you passed over where he shoots at a crow, misses it, hits the light next to Ray's head, almost kills him. Ray is just like dazed, and you hear Art in the background. Hey, what are you guys eating in there? And goes in, then he proceeds to eat all of their breakfast, and then also leftovers from the night before.
Dude, the best is when he gets up from the table because the syrup's out, so he goes to get more syrup, and he comes back with a fucking pineapple.
No, then there's this little bit where he reaches in to a bowl of food, and he eats it, and you see him like grimace his face. He's eating the dog food, and he doesn't realize it. Because Carol is walking by with the dog food, and he just like reaches in, grabs it, eats it. and then goes and takes a chunk out of rib or
Yeah,
Yeah,
rib.
Yeah,
like ribs.
And then he has the pineapple in his hand, and he, that's another one of our favorite lines is when he goes, when they're talking, and he goes, "You mean like grave diggers?"
So Art starts talking with their son and talking about the son starts talking. He and Ricky Butler's been spying on the neighbors next door.
Ricky Butler
and at
said.
night there, Ricky Butler says, and then he's talking about the back and they're digging holes, and then Art takes a big bite out of a rack of ribs, and the kid takes a bite out of an apple, and Art goes kind of like grave diggers. And then, Ray does what every married man with children has either done or thought about doing. He goes, okay, that's about enough of you filling my son with half-cocked theories. I'd like you to stop spying on the neighbors. And he looks over at Carol with the, like, do you see what I just did? And she
tries to get her approval.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so real and ridiculous at the same time.
So good. I love it so much. And when they the next bit is actually a quote that I say all the time. I quote this movie constantly, but it makes me laugh so much when they open up the garage and they're standing there looking over the thing, and he goes, so mind you, Art just ate an entire second breakfast over at their house, and he says, "Hey, do you want to go down to the deli and get one of those sandwiches?" No, I'm thinking about getting one of those electric garage door openers.
Yeah, the dating of the movie occurs. Now, I think I might go to the store and get one of those electric garage door openers, like the things that are on every house. Now,
he's like,
right?
Hey, did you see my tools?
Yeah, Carol's dad got me for Christmas. I want to build something with these, which foreshadows there's context to this that's brought up again at the very end of the movie, which makes it even more funny that they thought we're going to bring this toolbox up again.
Yeah, it's a good callback. So, what do you guys think of this whole opening bit before we even get introduced to the Klopex?
It's so fun. It's like, it's like, it's such a cool, like, I don't know. I guess you just really don't get that anymore. Like, I'm like imagining them doing this movie today, and I feel like you would never get this level of like character building, like you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah, it really does kind of build the world. It's world building for it. So we get like the characters, we understand the world, we understand the characters at this point, kind of their motivations, their dynamics. And we get slice of life for that first like 15, 20 minutes, just slice of life, them doing some, shenanigans. And then after he walks out and they have to go to they dare each other to go up to the porch, is such a funny scene too. When he I love when he knocks and the 9 turns into a 6. So it's 666.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And then the best.
And they look at each other.
The line we quote all the time too. Another great quote is, after he falls through the floor and he goes, "I'm not going to pay for that. Pay for that. We'll sue them."
Sue them.
It's very Addams Family, like the knocking on the door. That's just the creepy house.
Yeah. And then the bees are chased by the bees. I love Rumsfeld.
Man, come to water.
Yeah, it's so good. His pratfall is so good. The way that hose kinks and he just flattens.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
He's got a couple of really good moments
kid,
like that.
Yes.
I used to wonder, like, did he get hurt when he did that? Because he really took a fall.
He committed.
I mean,
good stuff.
Just think of his stunt double later on in the movie.
Yeah. His stunt double goes through a little bit. There's when at the end when he knocks down Hans, that fall looks like it's pretty fucking painful because they fall awkwardly because he like kind of he slide tackles him like it's a fucking yeah. It's so weird.
Where do you think you're going?
So
Plus, you feel very intimate with the characters in a way that very few films do. And I think it's, obviously you have like the whole time you're within this one little block of this one neighborhood. You never go off the street other than like the intro, which was bring up
Yep.
age 1980s reels where it kind of looks like the miniature city.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But it's pretty amazing how they're able to do that. And there's another movie that's recent. You couldn't like everything, but it has that same claustrophobic Avengers where they're just on the ship. It never off the ship. You're always there, and what that adds to the movie. You feel the claustrophobia of being in this realm with these characters in the same way that they're feeling in the movie.
Yeah.
You cut out there,
broke up
buddy.
a lot there.
we
Yeah,
heard
a lot.
We heard the bits and pieces of it.
It'll
Are you kidding me?
load. Just as an FYI, it will load and it'll be perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, you kind of broke up
We got
there.
the gist of it. We know it. We heard you talking about a claustrophobic boat, so I'm assuming that you're talking about the masterpiece Out to Sea.
I want to add to the beginning part because I do think that it's a really great way to show how you've got this huge planet, and as you get down to that like microscopic level,
Mhm.
to the single block on this planet, and just like all the things that happen on this one block in
Yeah.
this huge world, and
Well,
just,
this
like how
cul-de-sac.
crazy, and that is your world if you live in that cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, anyway.
Yeah, nothing matters outside of this cul-de-sac. Ray doesn't even want to leave it at the moment because he doesn't want to
No.
run into the guy who has an enormous head and gets drunk and falls down the stairs.
Anywho's, where
So,
were we?
yeah.
Femur bone.
Hey, Dan,
Were we
can
at?
you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
we can hear
I'm
you
just
now.
making sure you weren't frozen again.
It just kind of was a little choppy for a second.
Yeah, like I heard most of what you said, and then it just was like, and then the ship, and I was like, ship? Star Trek?
And then we just didn't know what to say. We didn't know what to say when you came back. We were like, mm-hmm.
That's a great
Well,
point.
the viewers must have heard. So just to bring the cast back into alignment, Passengers, the movie. Did you guys hear that
yes.
part?
No, now we
Because
do.
the claustrophobia,
Now we
you're
did.
being
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that
yeah.
ship and the setting is right in just on that ship. It doesn't go anywhere else. Totally different genre.
Yeah,
But it is insane kind of mechanism of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that. Yeah. What
A
I
little
love
bit of
about
like Rear Window.
yeah, Rear Window's another really good example too. Yeah. What I love about it is the mundaneness of suburbia. That's what makes it so good. Is it's such a mundane setting for this kind of wackiness to occur,
Yeah.
and the wackiness that occurs kind of escalates, and it's because we get some more slice of life stuff. Like I love when he goes on the walk and they tell the story about Skip. For instance,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
a great scene. I love the lighting. I love the sky, just the suburban, like block. He's walking his dog, and he tells this insane story about, this ice cream man who snapped and killed his family. And then, of course, they punctuate it with just a scare on Ray. And he says, I'm going to do something productive. I'm going to watch television. I just think that
Yeah, I love that part. I'm gonna go do
I
something
think
productive.
it's such a good scene because it not only do we get the joke and stuff and we get some backstory, but it kind of sets the scene of like the even in the most mundane places, there's some kind of horrific situation occurring.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also kind of sets up what we end up finding out later in the movie. And there's actually another foreshadowing I will talk about here in a second that I caught for the first time tonight. A new thing happened when I watched this for the 3,000th time. Not as many as Dan, not 5,000, but 3,000. When I saw it, and I'll bring it up after when we get there. But guys, don't you love how they're playing Jeopardy together?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was about to bring that up because like he's like, I'm gonna go do something productive, watch TV. But really he is like, it's such a funny like line to say, but he is doing something productive because he's like working on his relationship with his wife and like being with her for once in the movie without arguing. They're like having a good time.
Not just having a good time. Pictures from one of the calls on Jeopardy where it's like, the question was like your hands and your legs up, spread out wide, and Carol says, "That's what you should tell me in college, honey," just before, and it's like that is the only time they have any connection whatsoever in the movie, other than him trying to appease her.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, she's trying to wrangle in this madness, so she's dealing with just a lot of craziness. And then you have Mrs. Rumsfeld, who getting oogled by the neighbor boy. No tan line.
Everybody.
And the viewer.
Nice.
By everybody.
Oh yeah, it is Wendy Shaw. She's stunning. But also, so is Carrie Fisher. I mean, look.
Yeah.
If I was the Klopex, and Wendy Shaw and Carrie Fisher came knocking on my door, I would have answered it in a heartbeat. I'm like, what's going on here?
Come on in.
Come on in, won't you? So when they break into Art's house, and there's a bunch of little funny shit that happens here. But my favorite is when Art tries to just steal, puts that like ashtray in his pocket. Yeah.
It was a lighter, wasn't it?
Lighter, yeah. That's what you might put that down. Let's not steal from Walter's house.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I think I found like all of the stuff they used to set deck this movie at the thrift store this weekend. So like everything they were holding from like the pictures and everything, I was just like, this is all at my local thrift store right now.
That was really popular in 1989.
Yeah.
Not quite as popular as Batman, because nothing was, but it was up there. Yeah, so after we've, when we get to the, them, so first of all, we got to talk about them going over to the, he writes the note and, says, "Hey, Walter, I've got your dog. I've got the dog." Because he doesn't know what to say, so he just says, "Walter, I got your dog." Flips it under there. Which comes back later when it's so funny when the cop says, "And the old man says you stole his dog, too."
The other way he was writing it like sounded creepy somehow too, so he was just like, "I have your dog." I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
We broke into your house. We have Queenie. We broke into your house. We got your dog.
That's me like trying to text. I'm like, no, this is not good. I gotta simplify all this.
So, what do you guys think of the dream sequence?
This is the one I was telling Jamie that like the first time I watched this, I was like just watching and watching, like, this is a great movie. This is great. And then the dream sequence happens, and I was just like, what is going on right now? Like, this is not what I expected this movie to do at all. I did not see that
right there.
Yeah, like I did not see that coming at all. And I thought when I saw it when I was like a freshman, I thought it was really creepy. Like I thought it was pretty scary. And I don't think I quite understood it at the time. you know, but now,
All the
like,
horror
watching
references.
it, yes, and watching it on this watch, I was like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. This is so good.
Yeah.
The grill, like the giant grill.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or did they tell the story? Because they just talked about that night before, where
Yes.
Ricky Butler and Ray and Art, they're all talking about the soda fountain that, you know,
Yep.
back when they were kids, you know, the owner of the soda fountain. You know, you're adding this intrigue and this interesting dialogue that's going on. That feeds into the fear of the neighbors next door. It's a pretty good. It's phenomenal storytelling.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the fact it's also hilarious that it's Art as Skip. Hey, it's me, Art. I'm dressed as Skip.
Yeah.
Go to the shake.
Oh, so stupid. And the fact that Queenie has a little axe in her head is so funny too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Don't let them
And,
do to you what they did to me.
Walter.
Yep. You know, interesting tidbit. What's really funny now, looking back in hindsight, is when he wakes up, he's watching Mr. Rogers, and
Oh my gosh.
about 30 years later, he ends up playing Mr. Rogers.
I wanted to
Who
talk
likes
about
this?
this so bad. I was like, I can't remember if I told this on here, but I definitely think I told Jamie that I watched the Mr. Rogers movie last year, and I sobbed uncontrollably the entire time.
Wow.
It's really, really good. It's really,
And-
really good.
So when I saw that scene, I was like, I almost got emotional. I'm not even kidding. I was like, oh my god, oh no, it's happening.
It fills me with nostalgia. When I was a kid, I used to watch the shit out of some Mr. Rogers. Like, my grandpa used to record him for me. So I actually, in my VHS tapes, have a VHS that just has episodes of Mr. Rogers that my grandpa recorded for me. That was like one of our
Oh man,
deals.
I'd guard that with my life if I were you.
Oh, I do. I want to digitize that
That's-
one and have a home
that's
video
priceless.
of he and I hanging out too, which is really great.
Nice.
But yeah, so when this bit is one of my favorites too. When they go to get Ray, and Carol won't let him out of the house, and they act like a couple of children. Is
Yeah.
so
Hide in the
funny.
bushes, like peeking in the window.
Well, before that, when they're like, "Come on, Carol, let him come out."
Oh yeah. I gotcha.
And
This was
That
the
was
fact
after
that
the
was so funny to me that she's like she like puts her foot down. She's like, no, not a chance.
I like when he says, she says, "Not until he resembles the man I married," and then Art
We don't have
says,
that kind of time.
"Yeah." And when she tells him no, the little kick that Art does, like a little kid, is so funny. And Rumsfeld's standing there with his hands crossed like a little kid. It's so good. And then we get the famous, they're going over to the Klopek scene, which has all of the best
man.
stuff in it. The Klopek house stuff has all of the best stuff. First and foremost is Rumsfeld falling and dropping the plate and saying, "There go the goddamn brownies."
There go the goddamn brownies.
Well, something for the old sweet tooth there, Sonny.
Dude, we're watching this tonight. Sarah's laying with Connor on the couch, and that scene happens. I was holding Connor actually at this moment. That happens, and I started like uncontrollably laughing. He turns around and looks at me and smiles real big, and he's laughing. He's like, "I don't know why this is funny, Dad," but I start like I could not stop laughing. So it's seen this movie a million times, but every time he says, "There go the goddamn brownies," it's the way he says it. "There go the goddamn brownies." So dejected, it fucking kills me. And then
It is
Something for the
100% my dad.
dude, the fact that when he holds up the brownies and it has leaves and shit in it makes me laugh so much. Little something for the old sweet tooth, Sonny.
Oh,
I love
man.
that he just like both of his feet fall through.
Pratfall. So, the little bit of foreshadowing I was talking about, actually, it's a lot of bit of foreshadowing, happens right before this scene. When they're having, when she's like, let's go over there and talk to him, kind of de-escalate it, Carol is. She says, before somebody falls off a roof or catches on fire, let's go do this.
Mhm.
And both of those things happen.
Yeah.
Rumsfeld
they
falls
do.
off a roof. Oh, look, balloons.
Oh.
Rumsfeld falls off the roof, and Ray gets caught on fire, blows up. And I was like, oh, look at that. I never really noticed that. Didn't really think about it as much. I was just like, oh, yeah, she's trying to keep him. And then I was like, oh, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
good writing.
Clever.
Set it up. And I love
By
how
the
when
way,
they...
when they go into... Oh, sorry, Jimmy. I was going to say...
No, go ahead.
When they go into the Klopex, one of the best scenes of all time, which is right behind me right now,
Yes.
is Rumsfeld peeling the wallpaper we're talking, thinking is going to uncover some kind of crime.
I don't know,
And
Jeff.
then-
I don't know what he's doing.
Like, the bodies are in the wall? I don't know. Then he looks over and then tries to, like, plaster it back on the wall. It's like, what a hilarious clip to put
It
in
is.
the movie. Like, that made the editing, the post-production. They're like,
Yeah.
no, this has got to go in there. And they were right.
Yeah,
All right,
it's
so-
I've got,
it's
I've
so
got something
weird.
to share.
What's this?
I'm going to share this because this is the face that he has
Brother Theodore.
throughout
No.
this entire
Brother Theodore.
scene is
Yeah.
just wonderful. Also, that haircut. Let me tell you. But he stares at him like this entire scene, and it's priceless.
Yeah.
So,
Man, that
that's
guy's got
a-
a face too.
that's a great bit. But, and another great bit is when, what the sardine obviously is super funny and just one of those, like, it looks
Love how his
so
wife
disgusting. Looks
is like-
so, and
When
then
Michelle says, I'm trying to cut back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the fact that he looks up at Carol and she gives him the nod and he's like, oh. And then the look of fear on his face as he's eating, and he's like, he's just like, oh,
Why
no.
did he do that?
It looks
I love
so unappetizing. It looks so awful.
I think that's when Ray, the character, like, breaks. Because
yeah,
if you
I think
think
so
about
too.
it, from that point on, the next thing the guys know is he's carrying the dead guy, Walter's wig, pulls it out of his
Yeah.
trousers,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's when, like, the story completely, the narrative totally changes from his point of view.
Yeah, yeah. We got to talk about the acting real fast because Tom Hanks is so good in this movie. He's so
Oh
funny.
gosh, he's
He's
so
unbelievable. He's unbelievable in it. He's a perfect lead for this movie. And this scene in particular, when he's like playing the awkwardness of being in this house, Brother Theodore's staring at him because before we talk, we've got to backtrack a little bit and talk about when they find the femur and the note, because that's another line that we say constantly.
Oh yeah, that's my
Is
note.
when he throws it, he's like,
funny.
he throws the note over and he's like, well, first when he says, that's what I did, I wrote the note after that. And then when he throws it over and he's like, the guy litters, maybe he's a litter bug, makes me laugh so hard.
It's probably a receipt or something.
Yeah, you know how they blow every. Nope, it's my note. When he runs smack dab in that door and he grabs the beer cans and crushes them, I've never felt more seen in my life. Like, I was like, that's 100% me. That's 100% what I would.
Carol asks, "Do you feel better now?"
He's like,
I mean, it's just, I was like, yes, I feel that. You just want to, you're like, oh, I need to hit something, crush something.
Yes.
So funny. But yeah, of course, for some reason, the femur scene scared Connor. When it goes in and out. Ah!
Oh,
He
yeah,
goes,
but I can see how that would.
yeah,
like, freak
he like
him
jumped
out.
back. He jumped back and looked at Sarah and goes, ah, and he's like, it's fine, buddy. He was fine for the rest of it, but that he did not like.
That's so funny. That made me laugh out loud so hard. I was like,
It's because it's so
great.
over dramatic. It's so.
He's like,
Yeah, it's so good. So the fact that Tom Hanks is as Ray is Tom Hanks is playing the awkwardness of this guy thinking that he slipped them a note, and then Brother Theodore just staring a hole through him the whole time. So he's just kind of like trying to be cordial, trying to please his wife, but also trying to uncover if there's something here. Meanwhile, Rumsfeld's acting like a dumbass the entire time. You know, you're about a 9 on the attention scale there, Rube.
Yeah, maybe when he says, Ray's got a good idea, maybe we should go take a look in the cellar. We got the cellar here, Klopek.
Mark!
Just like, I think we should go now. Carol,
Yeah, it's just
the voice of reason.
Yeah, I think we should split this off. Tell him what you saw, Ray. But dude, when he comes
I gotta use
up,
your bathroom.
dude, when he comes up and he's like, maybe that was brother? Who knows?
Who knows? It shows him coming up the stairs, and the shadow gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, before it gets small.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't remember seeing the naps leave. Funny, there was a moving truck parked outside all day.
Dude, Brother Theodore's like scenes are so perfect, and I've heard that he was like that the entire time. Like even like off camera, off set, that's how he was, which is phenomenal.
I believe that.
So good. And then one of my all-time favorite scenes. It's an underlooked bit of business in this movie that Dan will know what I'm talking about. It's my all-time favorite. Is when after Dr. Klopek comes up and he shows the painting that he's been working on, and Rumsfeld just continuously spins the painting around, and looks at it, shakes his head, spins because he doesn't get it. It's the funniest thing to me. I think it's so, and then the fact that Klopek puts it the way he is, and Rumsfeld acts almost offended.
Yeah,
to the guy who painted it.
Yeah,
who might know the perspective.
So there was a day at work, we were Brenda brought in this painting. It's just a ridiculous, we don't know what it is. It's just a painting, just a big painting. And she's like, we're going to hang this on the wall. And so we hang it up, and Dan's standing there in the thing, and he's like, oh, is it even or whatever? And I hang it up, and I grabbed it and turned it around, and he fucking started dying. Like, you son of a bitch. Like, instantly, that's what I thought of when I started moving the painting. I was like, oh, I can see, because I don't know which way this thing goes. It goes anyway.
We still don't.
Awesome.
It's square, and it's been hanging up the way that it just we decided to put it.
When you walk into the office, it's right there. It's just a big painting that is nothing. We're just like...
Some modern art that makes no sense of shapes.
Well, here's what it is. The problem was there happened to be a blank wall space there, and that can't happen.
Let's not get started on this. It drives me crazy. That office, I had this thing designed to be just like a very kind of modern, contemporary, very uncluttered. It's over. It's cluttered.
There's literally a knick-knack on every shelf.
And I look over at Jamie, and I just look at him like, I don't even have the strength to voice my opinion anymore. I just, whatever. Okay.
To be fair, though, we've kind of bossed it up with some cool shit, like a 3-foot tall Terminator statue, and a foot tall Batman. Yeah, not a big deal. Just the coolest shit you've ever seen.
And then also like the Jurassic Park embryo shaving cream.
Shaving cream, yeah.
That I got from Temu for $13, which is actually pretty cool, by the way.
It's really cool. The best part is it's from our all-time favorite film, Dinosaur Park.
It says dinosaur like French, as if it's like shaving cream.
Yeah, Dinosaur Park.
Nice.
But yeah, that scene's so good. And the fact that he, you keep a horse in the cellar. I just love after Art gets attacked and he's climbing the fence. And to your point, Derek, you talked about it earlier. He says, "Another neighbor? A fat one."
I think he says the fat one, but yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so dumb.
Well, it's like when they were all talking, earlier in the movie when Ricky Butler was like talking about the adults, and he says, "See the guy over there?"
Yeah. The curly-haired guy and the fat guy. Yeah. Mr. Bumgardner, isn't it? That's his name. Art Bumgardner. Ray Peterson. And then Mark Rumsfeld. So when they decide, when he, the you've had that in your trousers all day.
It's
And we
pretty
get
gross
up
to think about.
Dude, it's so funny. Let's take a break here to talk about the other actors too. Because we touched on Carrie Fisher's great in this. She's so funny. And so like the voice of reason. Whitney Shaw's great at just being shocked about all the shit that Rumsfeld says. But our other two leads, Rumsfeld is Bruce Dern is one of the all-time greatest performances, I think, in film. I think Bruce Dern's Rumsfeld is so funny, right?
Yeah, definitely. They all do so good. They're also likable for characters who have these like really kind of obnoxious personalities.
Well,
They're pretty likable, which is cool. Like
They all
even
have
like
redeeming-
And then Rick DeComan as Art is also a classic. Like just his chemistry with Hanks and his chemistry with Rumsfeld is so good. Because he just is very good at playing this obnoxious, overbearing. He's the instigator. That's also somehow the laziest member of the entire group.
when they're digging.
He's like, this is taking a little more time than I thought.
Then he brings up like we should go get like sandwiches or something too.
Yeah. He's like, maybe we should start in the kitchen. They probably have some cold beers in there.
Something in the fridge, yeah.
They look like the kind of people who just have a bunch of cold beers ready for you.
Clearly.
Worth a shot.
I mean, they did serve
They're eating
sardines and fucking pretzels.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention right here is my picture frame broke, so I got to get a new one. But this is my signed Joe Dante picture
Nice.
from the Burbs of Mr. Hanks. Dan has the exact same one, except his says to Dan. It says
To Dan.
Dan.
Right over there, next to
Nice.
my William Shatner original series signed jersey. That my mom says that she doesn't like him anymore because he has a CPAP machine. Real thing.
She's like, I used to like him until he started doing those commercials for CPAP machines, and we were like, "What the hell are you talking
What?
about?"
He's 90.
You hate that he gets a good night's rest? I don't understand. How dare you? But this is when when it ramps up to 11. And so after Art gets shocked, there's a couple of really great bits here. So first, when he's climbing the pole and he says, "Safety's my middle name," and he says, "I thought his middle name was Lewis," always makes me laugh. But when he falls through and we get the shot of the overhead and we see Art's body shape in the ceiling and we shoot through that hole in the ceiling of his body shape is one of the funniest shots I could ever think of.
which is another scene after that.
Yes,
There's a scene
is.
that it comes back, and then you see that where he fell through. It's like, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Subtle.
Derek, this just sounds like something. This scheme reminds me of something like your brother would do, I feel like.
Oh, 100%. I agree. This has his
Like
name written
just-
all over it.
Trying to
like
clip the
cutting-
power.
Yeah, just cutting a
Yeah.
line without giving a fuck. You know, being like, this is probably it.
You mean impersonating another human being that knows electricity?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. It's like, I know what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
The fairy dragon strikes again. But it's... There's a sound effect that I always love in this bit. After he turns the power off and Tom Hanks touches the wire and it goes... I just love that. It makes me think of this movie every time I hear it.
Yeah, he just, like, the camera just goes back and he's just like...
Yeah.
I was like, they didn't have to put that in there.
Rumsfeld, I think he cut the right line.
Yeah, dude.
Knocked out the
When
entire
Rumsfeld-
block. Maybe the whole east side of town.
When
Oh,
Rumsfeld
yeah,
Brown
Ricky
out.
Butler. Yeah.
Yeah. When Rumsfeld's climbing up on the roof with the gun and,
Oh,
and Ricky
man.
asks him why he has the gun and he goes, paint your goddamn house. Makes me laugh so hard. Whoa.
Well, no, he says, "Why don't you mind your own business and paint your damn house?"
Yeah, paint your
All
damn
right,
house.
dude.
Yeah, every reaction he has with those kids. Like when the kid's like, "Man, when's the show gonna start? I gotta go to work in a couple hours."
Yeah.
Tell this
Hey,
lame to
Ricky.
get off your lawn, and then he eats an animal cracker.
The best is that he's eating animal crackers with a little cup of milk is so funny. It's the least like soldiery thing you could possibly do. Especially since it wasn't like cheap. It was like the name brand barnyard animal crackers that they used to have in the 80s.
And
Yeah.
the
the
fact that
circus
his
tent.
car is a Corvette is so spot on to that character.
Fuck yeah, it is.
You know, a 60s, early 60s, mid 60s guy, graying hair, and a Corvette with a cover on it out in the driveway is so
A
spot
camo
on.
cover, by the way. Camo cover.
Yeah.
It's so perfect. And dude, when he falls off the roof, that you were talking about that, Derek. That stunt is pretty good. When he falls off the roof and shoots the whole, shoots out the Corvette window, it's so good. Everybody's like, "Oh!" because they're getting their spectacle.
They're clapping. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, excited about it all.
This has another one of our favorite lines when he says, "Oh no, you guys can't go. I called the pizza dude."
Yeah.
All right.
Hey man, we're gonna go to McDonald's. You want a double cheeseburger?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so
I think
good.
he says double pounder or something.
Double
Yeah, a
Quarter
yeah.
pounder, maybe? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Quarter pounders, yeah.
No, guys, you can't go. We called the pizza dude. All right. So funny.
Yeah, and the amount of pizza that shows up is like,
Dude, that's
I
one of
mean-
my all-time favorite ADR moments. When the pizzas fall out of the van and you just get Corey Feldman's ADR saying, "Pizza dude!"
there had to
The
be
credit
like
card-
50 pizzas. Like that you'd have
Yeah.
to take out a loan for that many.
Yeah, definitely. Made that a special. The dude, the credit card bit always makes me laugh too. When he's like, "How'd you learn to do that?" "I don't know how to do this," and it just snaps in half. But
That reminds me of Jake.
the fact that all of his credit cards are burnt to a crisp is so funny.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're like melted together.
So dumb. So yeah, this end. What do you guys think of this final act? Because it just starts escalating. I do want to talk about the shot of Rumsfeld on the roof and them jumping over the Red Rover scene. It's
Oh,
a wonderfully set up shot. It's a great shot.
Yeah,
but it's so
I like
stupid. 'Cause
It is.
Red Rover, send Ray on over.
Yeah, it just keeps like pushing the fact that these men are boys.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
They are like so childlike.
Especially Art. Art's at another level. Art
Yeah.
is at another level. Because Ray at this point is just determined. He's got to prove that this is happening. Because he thinks that they killed, they killed Walter. And it always makes me laugh when they go into the basement and he's looking at the furnace and Art says, "Hey Ray, do you think house furnaces go to 5,000 degrees?"
He's like, no, this house is way too small for that.
Yeah. So do you guys remember the first time you watched this? Lydia, because you said you remember vividly. Do you remember when you found out that Walter's alive?
Yeah. It's like wait, what? He's alive. It's like such a good misdirect. It's so good.
Because
It's so effective.
Because you
We got a
bought
real
in,
problem
right?
here.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember being like, I have no idea what this movie is doing to me right now. Like,
What is going on?
yeah, like every turn was like, it was, surprising.
Yeah, no, that was a really good misdirect. And he's on the walkie-talkie being like, guys, we got a serious problem up here. Good
Ray,
times.
get up here, mister. Walter's back. Walter's back.
He's back.
And the fact that he gets, how he gets out of the things and the Klopeks come back with the cops and he goes, the police. The coppers. I love how Art walks out of the house, by the way, nonchalantly. Walks out of the front door of the Klopeks covered in mud and like shit from digging in the basement. He just nonplussed walks out like he owns the house. And then they're like,
Mhm.
the police show up and he's like, distract him. So Ricky's plan is to jump on the hood of it and say, what does he say, Dan?
There's people that are in my parents.
Yeah. They're eating all their food. It's such a good, it's so stupid because you're like, okay. That would be a teenager's worst nightmare, I would imagine.
Mhm.
You could have said so many other things,
Yeah.
like
But
more urgent.
they're eating all their food. So yeah, we get the house explosion, which, by the way, a really good explosion.
Yeah.
Really good explosion.
Yeah.
So they blow up the house. We get a misdirect that Ray has perished in the flames, and he walks out all just like the picture, burn up and shit, but alive. And then we get some of my favorite lines of the movie, some of my favorite bits. When Art is talking to the detective, and the detective's kind of explaining things. Yes, he does work for a university. Walter had a heart, arrhythmia problem, so he, called his daughter-in-law or his daughter and his son-in-law to come and pick him up. So we get all that backstory. And he's like, "You don't believe he's a doctor, do you?" "Yeah, he's a doctor, a damn fine one. You're lucky you didn't kill him in that blast." "Oh yeah, I thank my lucky stars." It's such a dumb line. Get this nitwit out of here. It's just like he's such an idiot. Then we get Ray's like thesis on the movie. We get the thesis and the theme of the movie. Ray delivers it to us with his rant about the suburbs and the suburbanites.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right, that's our thesis. That's what we're talking about here. They're not the problem. We are. We're the ones that. I like when he says, "We break into their house and burn their house to the ground when they're gone for the day."
But dude, Art's response to that is just priceless.
Oh,
I don't know what to say. What do you want me to move?
it's so good.
I'm gonna fucking kill you.
It's so good. It's perfect, pitch perfect, flawless. What you want? I don't know what to say. You want me to move? And the fact that there's a deliberate pause after he says it, where Ray is just comprehending what he just said, and then just sees red again. It's like, Want me to move? And there's like the perfect amount of beats for the comedy to land before he attacks. It's so good.
Yeah.
Ah! So funny.
Later, he's like, "That was quite the chokehold you put on me there."
Yeah. Carol, I think he's been working out.
My wife is home.
Dude,
Yeah.
that will get. Yeah, that's one of the best too.
Your house is on fire.
Yeah, your house is on fire and your wife is home. My
wife
wife
is home.
So, Lydia, we were talking about it. Derek, you remembered because you've seen this. I mean, you remembered the ending, right?
Yeah. I remember all of it.
Yeah. So, Lydia, do you remember that first time? What did you think when Klopek enters the ambulance?
I don't remember what I was thinking. I was like just taking this movie in, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just so fun. It's so fun.
So when he
That
enters the ambulance,
that actor is pretty interesting too.
oh, he's great.
Henry.
Yes, I remember him. There was a Disney movie called Luck of the Irish that he was in back in the
Yeah.
day as well.
Yeah.
Luckily,
Played Leprechaun in that.
Oh, were we going to skip over the fact that the neighborhood is from Leave It to Beaver?
It is, yes.
Oh, what?
The whole thing.
Yeah. It's on the Universal lot. They shot it all
And
in
the
the Universal
Psycho
back lot.
house is, I believe, in the back.
Yeah,
That makes
it
sense.
is.
Yeah.
It's right around it. Yeah.
Oh, that would be so cool to go there.
That is pretty cool.
I think the Munsters house is in there too, if I remember right.
Yeah, one of them. I think it was the Klopeks. Either Klopeks or Walter's house was the Munsters house.
Yeah, I think it's the Klopek's house. They just added some spirals to it and stuff. And but I think it's the Munsters house. It's 1313 Mockingbird Lane. Because that's a Universal backlot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's great. So the reveal when we find out that they're not crazy, that they actually are murderers, is a really fun reveal. The way it's revealed, because that way we get to see, we get to get the thesis of the movie, but we also get our cathartic happy ending. So it works both ways. And when he says, the way he says, "You saw my skulls, didn't you?" always makes me laugh. That's another one we quote all the time. "You saw my skulls, didn't you?" Well, I figured one man's furnace.
I just thought a man's furnace is his own personal business.
Yeah.
I let you keep the femur, but I want my skull back.
Maybe I'll take yours. And then the fact that Hans is in there just being creepy as fuck. That's the creepiest he ever looked, is in the ambulance.
I don't know,
Like,
man. There's a scene. There's this scene right here from the house scene that is just, it's too much. Look at that hair.
But yeah. But he doesn't look creepy in that. He looks stupid.
Sardines. I mean,
my neighbor is a spotting replica of Hans.
Ooh. That's so funny.
So cutie.
And they're creepy because they have the meat truck, and like they have this old 1920s meat truck in their backyard that is rusty and
full of skulls.
It's scary as heck. And my wife calls them the Klopeks. I didn't give them that name. My wife gave them that name.
That's perfect.
So,
that's so good. That's
give her a high five for that one.
Jamie, you got a neighbor that could fit that description too, don't you?
I do have a neighbor that is very much one of the Klopeks. I do sometimes. I do sometimes see the basement light on. I mean, the basement light's on all the time, but I do see it glowing some nights, and I'm like, could be a Klopek, man. He could definitely be a Klopek.
Could be.
This is the one with the dog that's named Pickle.
Yes, that's the one. That'd be the one. That'd be the one.
Could be anybody.
Yeah, could be anybody. So, I guess he's a Klopek mixed with Walter. Because he has his own little queenie. But yeah, the ending is so funny. The fact that I do love, there's a bit in the ambulance where he says, when I get out of prison, I'm going to help you rebuild your house. Carol's dad got me the tools. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Such a good callback.
There's the callback, yeah.
Such a good callback. But yeah, and then just a fun ending. We get everything's wrapped up, and then Ricky, of course, says, I love this. I love this town. I love this block.
I love this
kind of thing.
neighborhood.
That's what it is. Yeah, love this neighborhood, and then we kind of pull back out the way we came. So yeah, anything that we didn't talk about? You want to?
There is one thing.
What's that?
My 40th birthday party in August. Me and my buddy John, we're both very ridiculous people. We were in talks with Corey Feldman's people for Corey Feldman to come to my birthday party.
No.
True story. So we'll see how it goes.
We've seen Corey Feldman, haven't we, Jamie?
We have. At the old Comic-Con. Indianapolis Comic-Con.
I saw him on the
Felster.
Loserville tour.
You did see him on that.
He's around.
Good times.
Was he
He's out
filming a
about
car?
time.
Was he shredding it?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm
what
not
he
going to
does.
give him shit, man. I love Corey.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
He was a staple back in the day.
Yeah, he's great in this movie, especially.
Oh yeah, he was really good in this movie.
I can't name like a movie that I've seen that I didn't absolutely love him in. I mean,
well,
like
that's 'cause
Stand
you
By
didn't watch
Me is
any
one of my
the
favorites.
90s. You didn't watch
Well,
any
that's
of the
true.
90s ones.
That's true. I haven't watched him. Like, this is probably the oldest that I've ever seen him is in this movie.
Mm.
But
Yeah. No, he's great. He's great. And the whole cast is great. The direction is great. Another thing we didn't talk about is the music. The music in this movie is hilarious.
I was going to bring
It's
it up in my
perfect.
recap.
Yeah. It's so funny.
It's almost a character in of itself.
It
It
really
is.
is, because there's perfect melodies, and like in the situations, like they couldn't have chose. I don't know who actually composed this, but they did an excellent job.
It is
It
Jerry
was
Goldsmith.
spot on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, no,
It was written by
brilliant.
Dana Olson, by the way. The movie was written by Dana Olson. But yeah, the music is great in this. It fits it perfect. The one we always do is when Queenie. You hear the dog barking.
Yeah. It's on beat with the song. It's just like there's so many subtle things in this movie that are phenomenal.
yeah, I don't think I noticed that. That's funny.
Dude, and then the wife is home music cues, just like a big bold like such a yeah,
It's
just
so
like
good. And it just shows Art's stupid face.
I like when they're fighting how he bites his like finger.
He
It's
bites
like
his split finger. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's got
Brace
the
on
split. That was funny.
so dumb,
Oh man.
so good. So that is the Burbs, you guys. What are we gonna rate it? What are we gonna rate the Burbs? Dan, since you're a guest,
I'll
we'll
go
start
first.
with you.
Oh, go ahead.
It's kind of rhetorical. I mean, it's a 10.
Yeah.
Spinal Tap 11, maybe.
Yeah, I figured that would be the case. Derek.
So this movie, like I said, it's been a little while since I had seen it, but there's so many things you can recall about this movie 25 years later, which is a testament to how well the writing was, the acting was perfect. I wouldn't change anybody in this. Maybe
We
with
have to
just
here in a
one.
minute.
I know. But everybody's perfectly cast. I don't think that there's really for the characters that they were supposed to portray, like they just nailed it. And we didn't get to it to the end, and I was going to bring it up here, but the music, the composition for this was also like off the charts. It was perfect. It was kind of quirky at times, but it fit the situation.
Spooky at
And
times, even.
Yeah, it was spooky at times. There were a couple of hokey things, but man, this was a 1989 movie. Like it was supposed to be that way.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this is like a time capsule of a period in movies, and it's perfect. I'm gonna give this a 10.
Ooh, Derek bringing out the tens.
Dang, Derek, I thought you were going to give it like a 5 or something.
Yeah,
No,
that's
what?
That's Derek's MO with masterpieces. Oh, it's about a 6.5.
No, and it could be a little bit of nostalgia that kind of creeps in there as far as the rating, but I wouldn't change anything about this movie, and definitely one that Clark and I are going to watch.
Lydia, what say you?
I think I'm going to probably go with a 9. Just based on this podcast, it's like not necessarily like the scariest movie that we've watched.
Of course not. No.
But I highly recommend to anyone who hasn't seen this movie to definitely go watch it because it is so funny. It is so good, and it's definitely got the spooky vibe that you want with like still being in this really strange world of this comedy with Tom Hanks and these spooky characters. So 9.
Yeah, I'm with you two guys. I'm gonna give it a 10 as well. I mean, why wouldn't I give it a 10? It's The Burbs. It's one of my favorite movies. I have autographed memorabilia from it. Like, obviously, I enjoy it. It'd been funny if I was like, 6.5. It's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's
Not only do I have the signed thing that you have, Jamie, I have one of like the 5 movie posters, and you can't really see them from this point of view. Is The Burbs, and it's titled, what is it, a strange man in a strange land. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
He's just holding a garden hose. It's just
yeah,
perfect.
it's a perfect cover. Yeah, it's a great poster. Yeah, it's a 10. I think the performances are perfect. I think the direction is perfect. I think the acting or the writing's really solid. And it's an inconsequential story. Obviously, it's a fun, like whodunit mystery, done right, like that. Those kind of horror comedies done right. The horror is very light, but it's there. There's an undercurrent of spookiness.
Mm-hmm.
But man, there's a vibe to this movie. When you put it on, I feel like the crisp warmness of spring or fall, and just the leaves. I can see the leaves. I just love it. Yeah, it's a 10 for me too. I can just see the TBS bumpers.
Yeah,
because right after this movie, they would show Bird on a Wire. Fucking showed that movie all the time, starring Mel Gibson, Goldie Hawn,
and it worked.
That was like on. That was on every night. It was like, and now tonight, Bird on the Wire. Like, fuck, dude. They must just they just own the rights to Bird on the Wire, so like throw that motherfucker on. Might as well. Which if you haven't seen it, it's a pretty fun movie. It's okay. But
I've never even heard of it. I've never even heard of that one.
It's like a Mel Gibson, Goldie Hawn romantic action movie. It's all right. Goldie Hawn's a national treasure, and this was in the Mel Gibson's heyday, so he was good too. Before the dark times, before that Mark Wahlberg movie that he directed. What the fuck was the name of that Mark Wahlberg movie that we saw? Captive, whatever the fuck it is, Captive or whatever. Did not hear good things. But yeah, 10 for me as well. So guys, now it's time for the hardest part of tonight's podcast. It's time to Atkinize.
Oh man,
this movie.
I take it back. I know exactly who I would do.
Who would the great Tom Atkins play in this?
Thrill me.
Derek.
Walter?
Oh. He's too... I think I would put him as the police detective. We'd have to.
He could be the police detective. There's no one of the main cast I'd want to substitute.
Yeah, because the police detective, by the way, did you know the one police detective is definitely Ron Howard's dad, Rance Howard?
I did not know that.
Dude, I literally saw that guy and was like, is that Ron Howard? And I was like, no, that's not Ron Howard.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yep. He's one of the detectives.
That's funny.
I'm looking at a picture of him right now, and I'm like, oh, that's where the other Howard gets his looks.
You mean...
Clint.
Yeah.
Good old Clint.
Leave Clint alone. Leave Clint alone. He was an alien child, as we all know.
I'm not what you would call a handsome man.
Not the water boy?
It is the water boy.
I love him in Star Trek when he's like the fucking weird child. Remember that, Dan? Clint Howard?
Yeah, from 1966.
Yeah. And he looks fucking disturbing even then.
Yeah, good times.
Yep. I mean, he's probably terrified. Bill Shatner was like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Why is he yelling at me in a syncopated voice?"
If I were to cast Tom Atkins, it would be Mr. Finley.
Who's Mr. Finley?
The neighbors between Walter and Mr. Rumsfeld that's put in the movie exactly one time for a split second. Most people do know the
Yeah, I wouldn't put him as that because we have to have him. We have to have him do some lines, so I'd put him as one of the detectives. So that way, because it'd be cool to see Tom Atkins yell at Tom Hanks about all of the destruction he caused. And then what would happen is Carol would walk up and then he'd give her a wink because he's Tom Atkins, you know. And she'd be kind of into it because he's Tom Atkins. So but yeah.
And then their house would explode. All the windows would shatter.
Just from the presence of Tom Atkins. That's what he does. Makes the ground shake and some knees quake.
Oh my gosh.
That's the Burbs, guys. So what are we watching next week, Lydia?
Is it my turn?
No, it's mine.
Yeah, I was like, no, I just picked. Dawn
What
of
are
the
we
Dead.
watching, Derek?
Oh guys, I'm totally gonna redeem myself. And
Okay, you better, or we're making Dan pick.
Yeah.
and I am going to keep with this theme, but a little more of a modern twist. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it's not gonna be as good, but it's not bad. It's not bad. We are gonna dive into another
48 hours.
No, not another 48 hours. What was I trying to say?
48 hours later.
Another suburban style movie.
Oh,
We are gonna
I know what you're
watch-
picking.
What am I going to pick?
Suburbia with
Disturbia.
Is that the one you're going to do? Disturbia,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Disturbia. And
Yep,
it's on
that's a good
Pluto
one.
TV currently.
Pluto, there it is. Is it on Fubo?
It does not say Fubo.
That's an
Fandango, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, those you have to pay, but it looks like it's streaming. for free on
Disturbia,
Pluto.
yeah, we'll watch that one. I actually went to the theater and saw that one. And we'll talk
Yeah,
about
I
that.
did too. I went on a date.
Derek, we weren't supposed to talk about the date.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, that is our show for tonight, guys. The movie is coming along. We're chugging along. We're close to raising the money. We are about halfway there. We need your guys' help. Go to the Indiegogo, donate or invest what you can, or if you know a rich uncle or something, just have him give us a call because we will definitely be into that. But the opening scene's up on the website, so go check that out and at least share it, like, and get it out there. Next week we are watching Disturbia, starring Shia LaBeouf. That's the name I couldn't remember. I was going to call him Witwicky because that's the only thing I could think of. Fucking old Sam Witwicky. Or as I like to call it, the remake to Rear Window, because that's what it is. It's a remake to Rear Window. It's a pretty solid one. So Disturbia next week on Pluto, unfortunately not Fubo. And that's it for tonight. For Derek Lemaster, Lydia Judy, Dan, thanks for joining us this week on the episode.
Thanks for having me,
Really
guys.
appreciated
was
it.
Fun.
No problem. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad you can make it on finally. I've been trying to for like 5 years, so it's about
Yeah,
time
help you
Derek
with,
allowed it.
2 shorts, a movie. What else that help you with to get?
Hey, yeah. So, sure. You invested in the movie. Sure. You helped us with the short. But listen, we had to find the right time, and the 5th season was the right time to bring you on. So thanks for coming on.
Now that we're big and famous.
Yeah, clearly. We thought we'd give you the bump. But for Derek Lemaster, Lydia Judy, and Dan Smith, I'm Jamie Hiles. Remember, if you're going to scream bloody movies.